How does a car wash business operate? That's what we're discussing today. Today's guest expert, Dave Zook, he likes to say, gosh, he's got this great quote, you can be conventional or you can be wealthy. I love that. He's a successful business owner and an experienced real estate investor. He's been active in apartments. He's currently active in the self-storage and the ATM space. And he has acquired more than $350 million worth of real estate since 2010. He's been a regular here on the show for several years now. Dave, welcome back to GRE.
Thanks for having me back, Keith. I'm looking forward to it.
Dave, you get in these interesting niches that are somewhat on the periphery of real estate investing. Tell us about how you came into the car wash space. It's really interesting.
I'm not out looking for new asset classes. I'm not out looking for more things to do, but things seem to find me. And, this one was no different. And a really good friend of mine said, hey, my son-in-law's looking at this business and they want to get started in his business. Can you look over his shoulder and, kind of check the numbers and poke a hole in the business model or whatever. And I said, sure. What business is it? And they said Tommy's Express Car Wash. I had never heard of Tommy's Express Car Wash. It was about 2 years ago. And I looked at the business model, saw the cash flows, it looked amazing. But I shelved it. I was just like, oh yeah, good for them. And then I got to talking to an investor of mine who I knew was in the car wash space. So I said, hey, did you ever hear of Tommy's Express? And he said, well, yeah, that's me. That's my new car wash that I just built. And then he spent the next half hour telling me how Tommy's Express is the best company on planet Earth. And so I sort of shelved it again. And a couple of weeks later, another investor friend of mine who in the Midwest said, hey, I got a son-in-law who's looking at this business model and this business. Could you look over the numbers and kind of, check it out for us? And I said, sure, yeah, what is it? And he said, Tommy's Express Car Wash. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So I reached out to my friend who had originally asked me to take a look at this with his son-in-law, and said, hey, jump on a call with me. I got these guys looking to do a Tommy's Express Car Wash, and let's see what they have to say. You might learn something that you can use for your son-in-law. Well, we get on a call with them. And we get off the call and we're just like, oh my goodness, we sort of like these guys. And then, so of course, after a couple more calls and hearing, what they were planning to do and all that, we eventually, said, you know what, I think we want to do business with these guys. And we actually talked them off the ledge. They were, they had their funding partners all lined up and had to, it was a PE firm and they were backed already and ready to go. And so we talked them into partnering with us, and we became their funding partners. And so it's been a great ride. I mean, the last 2 years, it's been fun, and we've got a lot done in the last 2 years.
Yeah. Now, I didn't know very much about the car wash space until I learned more from you. And it's funny, Dave, oftentimes when I go to the car wash, about the time I'm paying and the garage door type of door lifts up and I pull in, I'm thinking quickly about, I wonder how this car wash operates, what its financials are like and how lucrative it is. But sure enough, once I put my car into park and I stop and the car is washing, I find something more interesting to scroll on my phone. So it wasn't until talking to you more that I learned that really car washes, much like McDonald's restaurants, they're largely a real estate play. Much like residential rentals, car wash customers pay the mortgage, pay the operating expenses, and then they provide cash flow.
Yeah, and it's, what are the three most important things about real estate? Location, location, location. Well, it's the exact same thing here. You want to be where people are going. People aren't going to drive 10, 15 minutes out of their way to get their car washed, but they will get their car washed, and they will take on a monthly membership, if it's in a location where they're going for groceries or they're going shopping or they're going to go fill up with gas or, you want to be where people are going. A car wash will typically service a, 5 to 7 mile radius.
Okay.
So you want to be where the people are. And you want to be where the people are going to. It is a real estate play, and typically we're going into that stretch that the main drag in that city, where all the action is. And you really got to pay a premium for that lot. You find a lot, and oftentimes we're finding a lot where there's an existing car wash, or there's an old bank, or there's a building, and many times we're scraping what was there prior to that and building a brand new car wash.
I imagine it takes perhaps a 1 to 2 acre lot.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, now you can go on the Tommy's Car Wash website like I have and check out their location map of current and future locations for their washes.
Yeah, and it is quite robust. I mean, it's one of the fastest growing franchises in the country, and it's right now I believe they're right around 130, 140-ish. They opened the year at right around the 100 mark, and they're at 130, 140 right now, I believe, and looking to be at 200 by the time we get to the end of the year.
Talk about the number of Tommy's Car Wash locations currently operating in the U.S.
Yes.
Of course, this is going to vary from location to location, and sometimes you're building new, or sometimes you're repurposing an existing facility. But what's just approximately the value of one car wash, or that value range?
Yeah, so it is just like an apartment building. You're paying on, this is an active business. You're paying on the performance of the revenue from that active business. So on the entry side, we can build a brand new car wash, real estate, building, equipment, everything. We can have a brand new car wash in operation for between $6 and $7 million. However, if you go to buy one of these already in operation, now you pay a premium based on how the business is doing on that real estate. No different than a multifamily apartment building where you're paying based on NOI. So you can really push the value, and that's the thing I like about this asset class. You and I know, many of your listeners know, that to go out and buy a stabilized asset in today's market and hope to experience robust cash flow. I mean, that's tough. There's not a lot of that out there,
right?
And so to be able to go out and buy a fantastic piece of real estate, an acre and a half, 2 acres, and then put a building there and start a business and really, create value. You're not buying value. You're not buying an asset hoping that it will go up in value, and inflation does its thing and the market gives you a bunch of appreciation, all that. You're going into a market, you're going into a location, and you're forcing the value. And now you get to build the value based on how well you can make that business perform.
Now, this makes sense long-term from a few perspectives, because we think about how people buy cars. Maybe they're buying more EVs today and fewer gas-powered cars, but both of them need to be washed, whether they're gas-powered or they're EVs or they're diesel.
People have, over the last 2.5 years, they've spent more on their cars. And so you got a nice car, you got an EV, you just spent $50, $60, $70, $80,000 on a car. You're gonna drive that car around dirty, or you're gonna spend $30, $35 on a monthly subscription and keep that nice car clean. And I was just in a car wash just last week, and I got the extra shine. It wasn't the premium wash, but it was the extra shine. It was $15. Well, I got to thinking, I'm sitting there, and I wish I had a Tommy's Express in my neighborhood, but I don't. But I just got to thinking, I was like, man, if I do this twice in a month, that would be a monthly membership, and I could just cruise through here whenever I want. And so people will pay. The pain isn't great enough. You're talking $30 a month, $1 a day. To drive around in a clean car. The pain isn't great enough to keep you from having a clean car and driving that nice car around dirty.
I'd pay between $16 and $18 for a car wash that I get maybe on an average of every 2 weeks or something like that. But Dave, when we've been talking about these income streams for that car wash owner or operator there, you've said something really key. You use the word membership and a subscription model. And as anyone in business knows, of course, subscription models are revered and coveted, and one really wants to get one of those because that provides for a steady income stream. So that's got to be a huge part of the model success, the subscription.
About 2 weeks ago, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal that talked exactly about that very thing. talked about the subscription model, the monthly memberships, and it talked about the appetite for private equity and institutions for this space. And that appetite's really heated up over the last 6 to 12 months, and so we're watching this. And when you understand, like you mentioned, when you understand Wall Street and how they feel about the subscription model, think no further than Netflix. When they would come out with their earnings report, it didn't matter that they lost a couple $100 million in the last quarter. What mattered was if they took their their monthly subscribers from whatever 1.2 million to 1.4 million, whatever the numbers were. That's what Wall Street was looking at. So when you can show a monthly subscriber base that's robust, they're all over that. Unlike Netflix, when we build our monthly subscriber base, that means more money to the bottom line. So you're making a lot more money at that specific location, and you're driving a lot of value. And I'll give you an example of that. So we bought had formerly been a top 5 Tommy's Express in San Antonio. It was actually top 5 in the country, and it had slipped back to just below top 10 prior to us purchasing it. So we got a great deal on the property. The owner was tired. He wanted to go to his ranch, and we ended up buying it. Within 12 weeks, we were top 3 in the country. And so, we took our membership base and we took that up more than 30% in 12 weeks. And so when you realize how that reflects in the actual value of that location, not only did we build our monthly cash flow by a lot, we increased our monthly cash flow by a lot from all the new members, but we increased the value of that location by $6 million. When you understand the valuation coming from Wall Street, we increased the value of that location by $6 million by increasing that subscriber base so much.
Yeah, that's really a big part of the model's success, that monthly recurring subscription for those that get their car wash. We're going to come back and talk more about this, including the income side and the expense side, and more about car washes. You're listening to Get Rich Education. Our guest is Dave Zook. More when we come back. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. There is upward pressure on rents, and you can make this actionable at our sister website, gremarketplace.com. This is where you can leverage my industry contacts to get started with rental property. I own properties with a lot of these same providers across different U.S. states. Most of these properties, which I've actually never seen in person before. And how can I have the confidence to own rental property without ever having seen it? Well, for one thing, I partner with these turnkey real estate companies, which you can do as well. I'll see you over there at GRE Marketplace. Welcome back to Get Rich Education. We're talking about the business of car washes and how they operate. And before we're done, our guest Dave is going to let you know how you could actually get involved yourself and get a share of the profits. And Dave, when we think about investing in something, we want to understand that business model better. And I like to think of that in terms of what's in the income column and what's in the expense column each month. Tell us about that.
The average income for a tunnel car wash to be somewhere around $2 million. The average income for a Tommy's Express is somewhere around between $2.6 and $2.8 million. And so you look at that, and they were talking about how $2 million is great. Well, when you look at our business model and you realize, okay, you got $2.6 to $2.8 million on average. That's an average store. That's not the top 10 or 20%. You've got operating expenses somewhere in about 50% of that gross revenue. So you got EBITDAs running at 50% ish. And so the operating margins in this business is pretty incredible. And that's one of the reasons, well, there's several reasons, but that's one of the reasons why Wall Street likes this business so much. The other one is, we're talking about small amounts of capital, but high volume. So this is not an asset class that takes that's really volatile in when there's a recession or a pullback. And when we look back as far as 2008, 2009, and 10, you're looking at about an 8% drop in revenue. I mean, when you understand the cash flow that comes from these businesses, 8% is like, it doesn't even, it's a rounding error. I mean, it doesn't negatively, okay, it does negatively affect the income, but overall, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't make much of an impact to an owner. So we've seen this go through some of those cycles, and the car wash space has been very resilient in those times.
Now, I've been on the Tommy's Car Wash website. I watched the video over there to get an idea of how innovative these car washes are and how a user can skip the line by using the app lane with a mobile app that they have on their phone. Then their license plate is automatically recognized and a gate opens for that user so that they can go into the tunnel and use the car wash. And then after they're done in the tunnel, there's the vacuum station and the detail kit. So is having this ease on being able to get users through the tunnel faster part of the revenue model?
Definitely. And we're told by Tommy's headquarters, you can't hardly pay too much for the real estate, the underlying real estate, because what happens is their whole claim to fame is you can drive a clean car, you can get your car wash in 2 to 3 minutes or less. And so you pull in, like you said, it's like the easy pass, it's like the express lane.
Yeah.
You pull in, you get on the belt, bring a dry car out the other end, and it's clean. You got a really good quality wash. One of the things that's important for that 2 minute wash is not just so you get your car washed in 2 minutes, which is great. You can drive in, you can, do your thing, be on the road, be back on the road in 2 to 3 minutes. But the volume of traffic that's coming in off of the main thoroughfare, if that takes an extra 30 seconds, you're going to start building up a line, and eventually people are just going to say, oh, you know what, there's a line there.
Right.
The same thing happens when I go past Chick-fil-A and the line wraps all the way around the building. I'm like, oh my goodness, I guess I'm not stopping for a chicken sandwich today. It's one of those things. So the more efficiently you can move people, get people on that belt and get them done, it provides a really good experience for the user, and it also keeps the lane open. And so, their washes. We actually just closed on a stabilized Tommy's Car Wash in Lincoln, Nebraska yesterday, and that's a 130-foot tunnel. It's the longest tunnel that Tommy's builds. And the reason that it's 130 foot is so that you can get more cars on the belt, and you can just really just crank. If that was a location that wasn't so high volume, you could do a 90-foot tunnel or a 110-foot tunnel or whatever. But if you get a really good high volume location, you build a longer tunnel, you can just crank cars. I mean, you can do a couple of, 200 plus cars per hour.
Wow, these are three great examples of how you add value. You've got the subscription, you've got the innovation with the app that I just described, and now you're talking about a long tunnel as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that sets Tommy's apart. You mentioned the technology. They got some of the best patented technology in the industry. They've got quite a few awards for being the best in their industry. And they're typically regarded in car wash magazines and car wash shows as one of the most innovative car wash companies in the space.
And I learned from you that 0 Tommy's Car Wash locations have failed to date.
True, and we also just now pulled, just in the last couple of months, pulled to third place, tied with McDonald's for highest sales volume per location. So the only two companies that we're trailing now is Panera Bread and Chick-fil-A. Highest revenue per store in any franchise in the country. We're number 3 now behind Chick-fil-A and Panera Bread.
Oh, that is a really interesting statistic, Dave. And car washes, they're not the type of thing that I typically associate with a franchise model like I do with some of those other businesses that you mentioned. And it's funny. I think 20, 30 years ago, sometimes I would hear people resent that another chain was coming to their town. And I think people have gotten so used to being able to know what to expect from a good or a service that they actually want franchises. The sentiment really has shifted to, when is this or that franchise going to come to my town?
Yeah, and I think it has to do with what you just mentioned. I think it has to do with expectations.
Yeah.
You have, does McDonald's have the best burger in the world? No, they do not have the best hamburger in the world. What you will get, though, it doesn't matter if you order one in California or Lincoln, Nebraska, or Philadelphia or China, you'll have consistency. It'll taste the same. It'll be the same size. It'll be the same weight. It'll be exactly the same. And that's what you get from a franchise brand. You get consistency. That, and you get to leverage, tools, systems, processes, equipment. In our case, detergents, everything is sort of centralized, and you got that quality, you got that consistency all the way through.
Now, you talked about with what you're doing, you're really the funding arm of the Tommy's Car Wash. So just tell us more about how that looks with the timeline. Are you often coming in and adding the value and then looking to sell and exit the Tommy's location with the investment funds in a certain period of time? Or tell us about how that looks.
Well, I think we all like options. I think you and I like options. The more options, the better, right? I mean, you don't want to be, cornered into having one option. You want to have several. And so these car washes are set up to where they could be a long-term hold. They could be a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year hold, and they would work great. We like cash flow, we like depreciation, but when we see what's going on in the world around us, and we see the appetite for private equity and institutional capital, and we see, one of the things that's been happening over the last 12 months, and even more recently, is the last 4 car wash portfolios, tunnel car wash portfolios that traded that had scale, meaning had 20 plus car washes in the portfolio, those traded at around a 20x multiple. That's crazy. And so we see what's going on around us, and we know that if we put a quality portfolio together, we expect to exit from that portfolio in the next 3 to 5 years. We're on the race to build 60. And so we're building or acquiring. Our goal is to have 50 or 60 car washes in our portfolio, and we expect to exit to an institution and capture that premium, capture that, take advantage of that, of those crazy multiples, because that could be around for a while or it could go away, but it's here now, and we expect for it to be here for a little while. And we expect to play into it. And that's how we expect to profit for ourselves, for our investors. And we expect to really do well with it. But look, if that opportunity goes away, this business, this would be a great business to just sit on and just keep it in our portfolio and just cash flow.
Yeah, well, you've been a real asset at helping our followers get started with the self-storage space and get started with the ATM space and be profitable and generate high tax-efficient cash flows over there, because oftentimes these are the type of investments that the layperson just can't get into themselves, like maybe they can a residential single-family home that they rent out to someone else. So now with car washes, let us know more about how an investor can participate. Must they be accredited? Is there a minimum investment amount?
Yeah, so this is a 506c raise, which means it's only open to accredited investors. There is a $100,000 minimum. And we have been building, acquiring stabilized assets, acquiring premium real estate lots, and we've got several groundbreakings going on this month, and so we've been busy over here, and we expect to give our investors a really good return And it's exciting time. It's an exciting time to be in the car wash space. So for those of you who are interested and want to hear more about this, I'd love to, Keith. I'll send you our investment summary. I'll also send you that Wall Street Journal link that talks about what, that I referenced a couple times. It talks about private equity money chasing the space.
Yeah, you can learn more about that and get the investment summary and look over it yourself and find out how to begin that way at gremarketplace.com/carwash. That's gremarketplace.com/carwash. Dave, can you tell us anything else about the returns and that investor distribution schedule, just how early an investor can begin getting their returns in their income stream?
We created the model very similar to the ATM space. Many of your listeners are familiar, have heard me on your show with the ATM space, where they invest and they get a fixed return, and at the end of the 7 years, the deal, they exit the deal. It's very similar to that model. In fact, I'll run a comparison for you quickly, since your listeners are so familiar. Many of your listeners are familiar with the space. An ATM, it's a 7-year deal, and you make a 1.79x on your money, meaning you invest $100,000, you get $179,000 back over 7 years. There's 100% bonus depreciation, which adds to your return because you never have to recapture that depreciation. That's 100% first year bonus depreciation. As a comparison, ATMs 1.79x in 7 years, car wash 1.75x in 4.5 to 5 years is what we're projecting. Okay, 1.79 versus 1.75, but you get it in much shorter time frame, 7 years, 4.5 years, 4.5 to 5 years. 100% bonus depreciation on both, but in car wash we're projecting that you get about 60% of your depreciation in year one and 40% in year two, since all these car washes have to be in operation by the end of the year for you to get that bonus depreciation. So those are sort of where the kind of the similarities are. You got that sort of time frame to exit. What we did, instead of going with a more conventional syndication approach where there's a profit split between the investor and the operator, we just said, look, let's de-risk this for our investor and get them the cash back as soon as we possibly can, and align ourselves in basically saying, look, we don't make a penny until our investors have all of their money back, all of their principal back, plus they've made their return of 1.75. And so that has been the business model. You make a 1.75x, and that's when you exit. You get 100% bonus depreciation, which you never have to recapture. This is a fun fact that many of your listeners probably don't know, but there is something unique about car washes and gas stations that's different from any other real estate asset class that I know of. A gas station or a car wash, the building gets depreciated at the same rate as the equipment. So you can really look at the building as a piece of equipment. The building, you can take 100% bonus depreciation in year one, which is pretty cool. So, that's unique to car washes and gas stations. So you can take all of the equipment, including the building, and get 100% bonus depreciation in year one, just like as if it had been a piece of equipment. So just some fun facts. This is an amazing cash flow business, and it's amazing depreciation tax impact investment.
Yeah, that full bonus depreciation in being able to count the building as equipment is a great part of the tax efficiency that really rolls in as part of your return here. Well, Dave, do you have any last thoughts at all about the operations in the business of a car wash?
For you business owners out there, I'm assuming many of your listeners are business owners and entrepreneurs. But for you business owners out there, this is a big one. Many of you know how tough it's been to hire, attract, and keep good team members. Okay, so typically when you think about a car wash, you get a really good quality wash out. And in the old days, you'd see people scrambling around, wiping cars down, doing their thing, and you'd expect at a car wash where you're, putting 200 to 300 cars per hour through, there would be, 10, 12, 15, 20 people on site. Well, you can run this site. We talked about technology. We talked about, being up on the technology piece with Tommy's. You can run this site, a high volume site, pushing 200 to 300 cars an hour through your site with 2 to 3 people on site.
Wow.
So you got a person at the window, you got a person at the front end of the tunnel, and maybe a manager, maybe somebody walking around making sure everything's good, maybe a maintenance kind of a maintenance person just to make sure everything's running right. But you can do a lot of business, high volume business, and you're only talking 2 to 3 people on site. So think about that for a second. You guys that are out there, hey, it's a challenge. We all know it's a challenge. Keeping good people, hiring good people, finding good people. And, when you can do this kind of business, you can pay more. You can really, attract the right kind of people. And, it's a business that you don't have to have a lot of employee overhead, and you just don't have to have a lot of bodies on site.
Making dirty cars clean has never sounded so interesting. If you want to learn more and get the investment summary and learn how to get started, if it might be right for you, you can do that at our GRE Marketplace website. And that is at gremarketplace.com/carwash. Dave, this has been super interesting to learn about. Thanks so much for coming back onto the show.